Good, okay, so start your knee circles, start your spinal twists, maybe putting on your own music, because again, I am not going to play my own. Get anything else out of your system that you want to from your back. Can everyone hear me good? Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Yeah, excellent. When we're ready, making our way up and over onto our hands and knees. Victoria, are we doing 45 or half an hour? 45, yeah, okay. And we are doing a 45-minute class, everyone, still, just so we know. Let me turn this there. I think this is my better side. All right. So, wrists under the shoulders, knees underneath the hips. Start to move yourself through your cat-cow. Belly button pulled in. Make sure you're not pulling your shoulders back behind your wrists. And then when you're ready, and if you want to, graduating into your child's pose, upward dogs. Remember, we don't all have to move at the same time. It's more important that you're moving with your breath. Good. And then we'll all meet again in our child's pose. And then everyone step forward and come into your lunge. So bring your left foot forward. There we go. When we look down, you don't want to see your knee lining up to the midline, so you want heel, knee, and hip lined up. Make sure your shoulders are over your hips and that you're not at the absolute deepest part of your lunge. Because remember, stretch will intensify when we lift our arms and our chest up and back. So lift them up, and then belly button in, we lift the chest up and back. Make sure that your knee doesn't pull back, it stays over top of your heel. Inhale, and as we exhale, release the hands onto either side of your foot. Start to walk yourself back and forth. 1, 2 back, 1, 2 forward. All right, take a moment in your stretch. So push the butt to the back of the mat. Make sure shoulders and hips are squared to the top of your mat. Make sure that you are lifting your tailbone, digging the heels down, pulling the toes towards your shins. So just getting in your hamstring stretch. And then coming forward, move the arm to the inside of the leg. Tuck the back toes, lift the back knee. We're going to shift forward on the back toes, push the mat away from you, and step your front foot back into your plank. So remember, we're not in basic gym plank. You're in yoga, Pilates, high plank. Onto the tips of the toes. Puff up the spot in between the shoulder blades. Tucking your tailbone. We're going to start to bring the knees in one at a time. In, out, in, out. 1, 2, 1, 2. Last ones. 1, 2. 1, 2. Toes to the mat and knees to the mat, child's pose. Counter stretch in your upward dog. Push the mat away from you, drop the hips, roll the shoulders back. Back into your child's pose. And then when we're ready, coming up, opposite foot comes forward. So I think right for most of us, so just opposite of what you just did. Right foot comes forward, sink into your lunge. And then just check, see where the shoulders and the hips are squared to. If they're over to the side, square back to the top of your mat. Make sure your knee isn't caving into your midline. Knee is over top of the heel. And we have shoulders over the hips. We're not at the deepest part of your lunge. Remember, your stretch needs to be able to intensify a bit. So when we're ready, we're going to lift the arms up. Interlace the fingers, release the index fingers, lift up and back. Oh, there's my sternocrap. Inhale, as we exhale, release the hands onto either side of your foot. And then 1, 2, walk it back and forward. Let's take a moment, bring the hands back. So move your hands wherever you need them to be to help you feel stable. You're going to stay open through the collarbone, dig the heels down, pull the toes towards the shins, and then you're just lifting your tailbone. All right, come forward, move the arm to the inside of the leg, tuck the back toes, lift the back knee. So shift your weight forward, push into your hands, step your front foot back. And then a little bit quicker this time if we can. If you want to do slow tempo, that's fine. So we 1, 2, 1, 2. But if you want to go slow, remember that's also fine. For 4, 3, 2, last ones. Exhale, exhale, toes to the mat, knees to the mat, child's pose. Come forward, counter stretch, upward dog, drop the hips, roll the shoulders back. And then lift it back up into plank. And now we're gonna lower all the way down onto our stomachs. Take a moment here, remember, figure out how you like to rest. Do you prefer to have the hands stacked and rest your head? Do you want the arms long beside you? Okay, bend the legs, bring the heels towards the butt, arms long beside you. We're anchoring the pelvis to the mat, pulling the belly button up off the mat. Float everything up. Get your wrists and your shoulders to line up. Get the thighs to lift off the mat, lift the chest up. You're anchoring your pelvis, deciding when you need to start to squeeze the butt. Try to save it for when the extensions are a little bit deeper. Right, like if you're gonna try to straighten the legs and you wanna keep the thighs lifted up nice and high, maybe you're interlacing the fingers behind you. So if you're lifting up this much, you should be squeezing your butt. Hold it for 3, 2, and then lower down, right cheek on the mat, arms long beside you, move an invisible tail side to side, or rest in between. Okay, so let's do that again. So now you know what to expect. Now you know what you're doing. You're gonna pick your arm movement and you're gonna pick your leg movement. We'll start from modify this. So everyone, begin here again. Anchor your pelvis, float everything up, and then decide what version you're doing. If you're coming into a bit of a deeper extension, we wanna be squeezing the glutes. Hold it for 4, 3, inhale, release down. Now left cheek onto the mat. Arms long beside you, move your invisible tail side to side. And then let's bring the arms out. So doing our half floor bows, you're gonna do right, you're gonna do left, and then we'll go for the big one and you'll do both, okay? So still anchoring your pelvis. Bring your right heel towards your butt, reach your right hand around to grab a hold of the foot, look out over the fingertips, push the foot into the hand, float the knee and float the thighs up off the mat. So remember, if you're lifting your right leg, you want your left hip anchored, even though both hips are anchored, just pushing a little bit more into your left hip. Look out over your left fingertips. Let the right shoulder, right side of the chest lift. Inhale, and as you exhale, release it out. Same thing on the other side. Left heel towards the butt. Bring your left fingertips around to grab a hold of your foot. Look out over your fingertips. Push the foot into the hand. Float the knee, float the thigh up off the mat. Letting your shoulder roll back. Looking out over your fingertips. If we're lifting the left leg, you want to make sure you're anchoring your right hip. In particular, inhale. And as we exhale, release it out. Elbows wide, stack your hands, rest your chin or your forehead on your hands, and move your invisible tail side to side. So now, let's go for the big one. Bring your heels towards your glutes, bring your arms long beside you, and then bring your knees as wide as you think you need to reach around and grab a hold of your feet. If you can't grab your feet, it's fine. You're just gonna do another skydiver. If you can grab your feet, bring your knees nice and close, like you're holding onto a grapefruit, and then you're gonna anchor your pelvis, pull the belly button up into the spine, push the feet into the hands to float everything up, And then once you're here, we squeeze the butt. We keep the knees closed, and you want to send everything to the back of the mat as you push your feet into your hands. Right, so send everything up and back. For 3, 2, lower down, rest however you choose. If you want to stack your hands or you want to have your arms long beside you. And when you're ready, make your way into your child's pose. Push the bum back, reach the fingers forward. Take a moment here. This can feel like a nice counter stretch to your floor bows. So just take a moment, stretching how you need. All right, when we're ready, let's transition into a seated position, legs out in front of you. So however you need to do it, if you can cross your legs from your ankles, do that. If not, whatever works, just bring yourself into a seated position. All right, so coming into a forward fold. We're gonna keep our legs active in our forward fold. So what we mean by that is don't let your legs roll out to the side, right? We don't want this relaxed leg. You want to make sure your toes and your knees point up to the ceiling. Good. Okay, so start to reach forward with your core. We're looking at our knees. We're reaching the arms back. All right, so I'm looking down, pulling my toes towards my shins, coming into my fold, and then reaching the arms back. Good, okay, so release your arms out. And let's lower halfway, down onto our tailbone, and then bring it back up. Lower halfway, bring it back up. And then just watching mainly that your gaze stays on your knees and that your wrists don't drop to your feet. Good. All right. Let's pause. So shoulders heavy, shoulders plugged in, belly button pulled in. I have tailbone. Jennifer Hamilton, are you tailbone? Yeah, that's right, yes, okay. So doing something else if you need to, or if you're good, doing what you need to do. Okay, we are keeping belly button pulled in, shoulders down, shoulders back. Let's add in our leg movement. So you're going to bring your knee up until your ankle and your knee line up with your wrist and your elbow. Lower it down, same thing on the other side. So just one leg at a time. You're bringing your knee into your chest. You're bringing heel up, knee into the chest so that everything lines up. So let's pause when our right leg is in the air. Reach your right toes up to the ceiling, shoulders heavy, shoulders plugged in, belly button pulled in nice and slow. Lower your foot down, bring your foot back. Bring your knee in, reach your toes up, shoulders heavy, plugged in, belly button in, chest up, nice and slow. Lower your heel, bring it back. One hand down, one hand down. Remember, when you place your hands down, you want your wrists, no, you want your knuckles under your shoulders-ish. So just remember, don't go too wide, don't go too far back. You do your side to side, and then we're doing that tabletop just for the stretch across the hips. We're not gonna do a reverse plank. You're just doing this one to feel that stretch in your hips, across the front of the hips in particular. And remember to move your wrists, move your heels wherever you need to, so that you're feeling your glutes fire up. Inhale, and then drop the butt. Push yourself forward, reach your arms back, and lower either halfway or all the way down. Bring yourself back up. Starting again in our counter stretch. Your Pilates style forward fold. Okay, release it out, lower down onto your tailbone. Bring one foot back, bring the other foot back. So we're not gonna lift a bent leg now, you're just gonna straighten your leg right up, okay? So straighten it up, and as you do so, shoulders back, shoulders down, shoulders back, belly in, chest up. Lower your foot, Bring it back, same thing on the other side. So as the leg lifts, we do our little shoulder chest fix. Nice and slow, lower. Bring it back, one more each side. Float it up, lower. Bring it back, good, one more. Float it up, lower. Pull it back, hand down, side to side. Okay, so now we're not gonna roll back, we're just gonna do another one. So bring your arms out, get yourself right back into it. And now you're gonna do your half teaser, remember? So I'm not here, I can't see exactly what you're doing, but I have faith in everyone. Everyone knows how to do a teaser properly, especially the half one. So float your leg up, do your little shoulder fix. And then reach everything forward as we slowly lower. Try to keep your thighs lined up. Inhale, reach your arms back, wide swoop, out and up, reach for your toes. Beautiful, bring your foot down, same thing on the other side. Bring your leg up, right, reach everything forward, controlling your landing. Inhale the arms back, exhale, out and up. Bring it down, one more each side, keep going. Float your leg up, reach everything forward, nice and slow. As you lower down, inhale your arms back, wide swoop, out and up. Beautiful, one more, last one, other side, float it up. Good, inhale the arms back, wide swoop, out and up. Beautiful, bring your foot back, down to the mat, hand down. And move side to side. Okay, so now, set your hands up. Are your fingers pointing to your heels or your fingers pointing to the sides of the mat? When you're ready, dig into your heels, dig into your hands, lift up, and we're doing a little bit of a pelvic tilt. Right, we're doing this for the stretch across the front of the hips, remember? Belly button in, tilt your tailbone up towards the ceiling. We inhale, and then drop the butt. Reach forward, push your arms back. Last one, we're gonna lower. Just halfway down, just onto your tailbone. Where should it be? Yes, okay. So this time we're gonna keep our legs out. Keep your legs long. You want the weight of your leg sort of acting as a bit of a counterweight as you bring your leg up. Get your ankle and your knee to line up with your wrist and your elbow. Lower down, same thing the other side. Lift it up. Now we're lifting and holding. Bring your other leg up. So we wanna bring heels up, knees into the chest, shoulders down back. All right, so from here, this is a Navasana in yoga, this is a teaser position in Pilates. Reach it forward, reach everything forward as we lower. Don't let your heels touch the mat. Knees into the chest as you reach your arms back, and we swoop out and up. There's a little bit of a learning curve to how to hold your landing, or how to stick your landing, but working for it. And now, if you want to, straighten your legs. Same thing, reach everything forward. Don't let your heels touch, and then bring the knees into the chest as we reach your arms back. Wide swoop, out and up, hold it for 3, 2, beautiful. Feet to the mat, hands to the mat, side to side. Good work, everyone. Whew. Okay, so now we're gonna lower down, and we will do a little bit from bridge. Just remember, okay, I'm gonna stop, drop. We're gonna stop, drop, and workshop, everyone, just like we would in class. All right, I'm gonna move down to here and bring it in real quick. So we're doing bridge work, right? We're doing this kind of stuff. Ideally, you're not turning your head, right? What do I always tell you? Everything with sort of bridge and your rollovers, all the stuff, we don't want to be turning our head, right? We don't want to be doing what I'm doing right now. So if you're going to turn and look at me, just try to create a habit of bringing your butt down before you do. But luckily for everyone, I can talk a mile a minute and we'll just explain things for 45 minutes non-stop. So I'm gonna verbally cue everything. You don't have to really turn and look at me or what I'm doing. I'm actually not going to do it, just so that everyone is not tempted to turn and look at me. But set yourself up, lower yourself down, touch your heels to your middle fingers, set yourself up like you would for your Pilates bridge. If you don't know, if this is the first time you're working out with me, and I think there's a couple, yeah. If you've never done a bridge with me before, bring your heels back to your middle fingers. Start with the insides of the feet and the insides of your knees touching, And then you separate your big toes slightly, and then you separate your heels slightly, so you have that same slight amount of space between big toes, heels, and knees. All right, so from here, anchoring your low back down to the mat, right? You want to feel that activation in your core from coming into imprint. That's what you're doing. You're creating a pelvic tilt, and then keeping that pelvic tilt as you lift. Vertebrae by vertebrae, we lift. Vertebrae by vertebrae, we lower. Just nice and slow. Right, so it's a fairly simple basic movement, but what you're focusing on is how exactly do you need to position your feet? Where do your heels need to be? Where do your big toes need to point? Are your knees right over your heels, or are they a little bit wider? Think of really keeping the tilt when you lift. The lowering isn't so important as long as you don't arch your back to bring your butt down. The lift is when you really want to make sure that you're lifting vertebrae by vertebrae, that you're keeping the belly button pulled in, and you're feeling that little bit of tension across the lower part of your pelvis. And that's how you know you're keeping imprint when you're lifting, or you're keeping your tilt when you lift, right? So that these start to get fairly intense pretty quickly. You don't have to do a big drop and lift. There doesn't need to be a big movement for these to start to burn. Okay, so we're only doing these for that counter stretch across the front of the hip. So when you're ready, point your toes and your knees forward. And then knees over the heels, lower down mid-back first, tailbone last. Bring your knees into your chest. Take a second, stretch it out. And then let's see, how should I set up for leg circles? Okay, so this is gonna be a hard one to capture everything at the same time, but we're gonna do our leg circle. So let's have right leg out, left knee in. All right, so my right leg is long on the mat, and remember that your right leg stays active. Your foot is active, you're not just letting your leg roll out to the side. Okay, so left knee in, take a second, stretch it out. Bring it out towards your underarm, in towards your midline. And then when you're ready, you're gonna reach your toes up to the ceiling, elbows out to the side. Use a little bit of arm strength to create your stretch, right? So this should be a deep stretch so that when you release your leg, it feels quite a bit, it's not quite as intense as when you were pulling it in, right? So release out, set up your leg circle arms, and start to draw your little circle on the ceiling with your toes. And I'll move a little bit further back now, maybe we can see a bit better. And remember, you draw with your foot, you draw with your knee. Whatever is over top of your hip is what you draw with. There we go. And just make sure we're not letting our knee roll out to the side. So knee faces the back of the mat. We're gonna pause and go the opposite way. So you wanna really focus on learning the exact positioning of your arms. How do you need to position your arms so that you can use your fingertips to stop your body from weeble wobbling? I like to have a little bit of this sort of positioning of my arms when I'm doing leg circles. Like if I'm lying on the mat, that's kind of how I have the hands positioned so that I can, my arms sort of absorb the flailing of my leg or the weeble wobbling that happens, the counter swaying. Good. And remember, there's a few of us who are fairly advanced now. You can start to make your bigger movements. Just remember that you got to be on the lookout for hip clicks. Don't let your hips click when we're doing this. If they are, you're maybe going too big too soon. You might need to bend your leg or your knee is rolling out to the side. All right, last one. Bring your knee in. Stretch it out. Remember, you stretch at the beginning and you stretch after you do these. And then same thing on the other side when you're ready. Bring your other leg out, bring your other knee in. Stretch it before, do knee out to the underarm, into the midline. Remember, you're drawing either a smile or a frown with your knee. And then reach the toes up to the ceiling, stretch before, interlace the fingers, elbows out to the side, use a bit of arm strength to bring the leg in towards you. And you just never interlace your fingers in the back of the knee. You either want to do calf or thigh, but really create a deep stretch with the back of the head on the mat, shoulders touching the mat, bring the leg in, and then release it, placing your arms in your leg circle arms. Decide how you need to position your legs and start your leg circles. Just know which way you're going because you're going to have to go the opposite way in a moment. Notice if you are drawing with your, with your knee or your toes or the ball of your foot. Good. And then let's switch and go the opposite way. So start small again if you were going bigger. We don't want our body weeble wobbling. You got to tense everything up. Remember, you tense up, but you keep your shoulders anchored to the mat. Okay, last ones. And then bring it in. If you want to do a few more, that's fine. But if you're ready, bring it in and start to draw your circles on the ceiling. Do your opposite stretch. Bring both of the knees in. Draw your circles with your knees. And then get ready for your double one. So lying down, both of your legs in the air. How is this up here? Look, okay. Setting your leg circle arms up still, anchoring your shoulders, pushing into your fingertips. You can allow for as much of a bend in the legs as you need. Start to draw your circle on the ceiling with your toes. And make sure you separate your legs and your heels go opposite, right? Where we're not doing, it shouldn't look like you're stirring a big pot with your legs. You want two separate circles. Okay, so pause, and let's start to add in. So we'll start to smooth out our double leg circles. Separate your heels slightly, lower your legs slightly, touch your heels, lift it up, right? So separate, lower, touch, lift. Separate, lower, touch, lift. Separate, lower, touch, lift, and remember, these are the baby rollovers. We're not going to do rollovers today because it'll just be too tempting to turn the head, but these are the little newborn ones, right? So we don't go too deep, we don't go too wide. If you do, you'll tire too soon. So nice and slow, lower, touch, lift, separate. And number one rule of Pilates, the moment both of your feet are in the air, you're not going to let your low back arch off the mat. So you have to watch that when your heels lower, right? So make sure your back doesn't arch, touch, lift, separate, lowering, making sure our back is on the mat, touch, lift. So now we just start to smooth it out, take the corners out of it, and make sure your knees aren't rolling out to the side. So it's like you're doing two oval shapes with your legs. We need to be actively, gently pressing our low back down to the mat the whole time you do this, right? We need to be in imprint. Good, so look at your feet and make sure your feet are going in opposite directions. Your feet shouldn't be going the same way. That's different. Good, so look at your heels, everyone look at your feet and think, am I talking to you? Separate your feet, lower, touch, lift. It's like you're making a box, you're not stirring. There we go, good. Okay, last ones. Knees into the chest, lower down. Take a second, stretch it out. Ooh, we're already a half an hour in, everyone. You only have 15 minutes left. Okay, so now our favorite ones. Bring your knees in towards your chest. Nose up to the knees, or knees right up to your face. Remember, we're here. And then roll the shoulders down. So you have to keep your knees here nice and close to your face without using your arms. Arms come back, and we interlace the fingers. Allow the head to be nice and heavy in your hands. Keep your neck nice and long, belly button pulled in. So you're curling your knees in even closer, releasing just a little bit. Bring it in, release slightly. No movement from the waist to the top of the head. And we don't let the knees go back out over top of the hips, right? Remember, the whole point of this is keeping the knees in nice and close to the face. When you're ready, if you want to, lifting your heels up, whatever that means for you. And you won't be able to see it when I lift my heels, but I'm straightening my legs, keeping my knees close, meaning my toes should be pointing back a bit, right? My knees aren't right over top of my hips. My toes aren't pointing right up. They point back a little bit. From here, belly button in, let's curl and hold and release. Curl and hold and release. Keep the neck nice and long. And try not to have your head turned too much for this. Try not to be really like turning and looking at me. Look up at your feet and keep it nice and slow. No momentum, right? It's slow. Curl it up and hold and release. You don't let your heels go back out too far. That's a different kind of core. This is a tailbone curl up. Everything is going up and back. Right? So if your knees are going out, so don't use momentum and don't let your knees go out past your hips. That's how you're going to tire too quick. Back of the head is lifted up off the mat. Head is nice and heavy in the hands. Bring your knees in close to your face and keep them there. If the knees are going out past the hips, that's another kind of core. So keep your knees close to your face and make it a small, tiny little movement. Good, excellent. All my well-trained regulars. All right, last one. Knees into the chest, lower down. Give yourself a moment. So now we're going to combine them, and we'll do everything right up to the actual rollovers, right? So you're going to combine your leg circles, your double leg circles, combine your tailbone curl up into that one little baby infant rollover. All right, so we're down on our backs. We'll actually start with the back of the head lifted with this one as well. Okay, so lift it up. And remember, I'm not, my legs never go out here. So everyone look at me right now, see where my knees are. This is not a part of your movements, right? Unless you're dropping a little bit here, right? But we don't let the knees usually go out past here when you're doing a tailbone curl up. Yes, if you're doing leg circles, but when we're doing tailbone curl up stuff, this is never part of a tailbone curl up. Tailbone curl ups are close and back. Okay. So head, neck, and shoulders lifted. We're going to start with our feet touching. Remember, you need to think, when do I have my big giant leg? When do I have my two skinny legs? Right now, we have our big giant leg. We're going to separate our big giant leg. We're lowering slightly, making sure the low back is touched the mat. Touch the feet back together. Lift. Little bit of a tailbone curl up. Separate your feet. Lowering just slightly, like a quarter of the way down. Touch. Slowly lift. Slowly curl up and separate. Right, so you want to keep these nice and small. You want to don't use momentum to lift it up. Keep it nice and slow. If you are one of my regulars, if you've been doing these for a while, if you are in an environment where you're not going to like kick a child or knock over a water bottle and you want to go for your rollover, fine, just don't turn your head. Good work. And then just switch it up, go the opposite way. So now you want to think you're going to lower your big giant leg slightly, separate your feet, lift it back up, and touch. Lower slightly, separate, lift, and touch. And remember, the slower you keep these, the better. The smaller, the slower. Don't let your heels go too low. That's making it too, you remember you're going to tire out. You don't want to go too deep. You don't want to go too wide. As wide, you're only going as wide as 2 fists. You're only lowering like a quarter of the way down. You see how low? My feet aren't even going into frame right now, I think, because I'm not bringing them here. That's going to make your back arch. We don't want that. You want to be able to keep your pelvic tilt and just keep your feet not too deep, not too wide. Okay, last ones. Knees in. Give yourself a break. If you want to do a few more of those, if you just sort of got back into it, go ahead, do a few more. But when you're ready, bring your knees down, give yourself a moment. All right, and we're actually getting pretty close to call it time. So let's move into, and if you missed a few of those, if you want to keep doing with those, that's fine. But if you're ready, make your way up and over onto your hands and knees into your child's pose again. If you're going to take a moment in a wide-kneed child's pose, that's fine, but just remember you don't transition forward from a wide-legged child's pose. That is a resting pose. When you want to come out of it, your knees have to come closer. So let's everyone do it actually, unless it's an issue for your knees. Everyone go into a wider-kneed child pose. If you're on a yoga mat, even if you're not, just imagine that your knees are as wide as your yoga mat. Reach forward, push everything back. These are typically thought of as safer in the knees for people who have knee issues, for them to do a child's pose. But you don't want to transition forward here because your weight is on the inside of your knees in a weird angle. So when you want to come out of it, we come onto our forearms, bring your knees closer. Like bring them hip width, and then push back into your child's pose. And let's bring our right foot forward. Right foot to the outside of the right hand. So everybody look down, make sure that your hands and your foot are lined up. This is a great example of what I don't really want to be doing. Look at how my back thigh is right now. You see how it's vertical? We don't want that. That's not really going to create the stretch needed. So I'm not going to move my front hands or foot, but I'm going to move my back knee back, right, until I'm a bit deeper in my lunge. So now if you want to, maybe you're lowering onto a forearm. Maybe you're getting onto both. Maybe you want a pillow or a toaster or some other, I don't know, something from your house around your elbow to help with your lunge. And remember that if you're coming down, you still have to have your elbows lined up with your foot. So either elbows, wrists, something is lined up with your foot. If you've been up for a little bit and you want to go for our extend out, if you know what I'm talking about, go ahead and do it. I'm not, it's too early still. And then so just holding here, make sure that your neck stays nice and long because you will sort of collapse into your shoulder. So we want a nice long neck, shoulders away from your ears. And looking wherever just sort of helps keep your neck lined up with your spine. And then remember, we all transition forward out of this the same way. So everyone tucks the back toes, everyone lifts the back knee, everyone shifts their weight forward and then push into your hands, your arms, whatever you have to step back. And then we're in plank. So everyone make your way into your version of plank. And remember, we're in a yoga Pilates high plank. You want shoulders slightly past the elbows this time if you're in dolphin plank, or wrists if you're in regular plank. And we want that slightly scooped out, hollowed out shell shape to our core for 4, 3, inhale, knees to the mat, child's pose. Same thing on the other side. Bring the left foot forward when you're ready. So make sure your wrists line up with your foot. Does that make sense? Yes. Wrists line up with your foot. You've got your shoulder to knee connection. Turn your toes and your knees slightly out. And then if you want to, maybe you're coming onto one forearm, maybe you're lowering onto both, maybe you're not going down onto either. Whatever works And just watch that you don't collapse into your shoulders. That is fairly common. You should be feeling discomfort in your hips, not stabby, fiery pain, but definitely discomfort. And then when you're ready, tuck the back toes, lift the back knee, shift your weight forward, push into the hands, step the front foot back, and come down onto both of your forearms. So holding here, shoulders over your elbows-ish, or if you're in regular plank, shoulders over your wrists, but holding for 3, 2, knees to the mat, child's pose. All right, everyone, that is basically it, but we're just gonna do our closing stretches. So when you're ready, make your way into cross-legged position or just whatever is a comfortable way to sit. Good, so bring your arms out onto either side of you. Flip your right palm, bring your right arm up and over. Remember, we wanna keep the top arm as straight as possible, even though you can't really see mine, but keep it straight. Roll the pinky side of your hand down, roll your shoulder back. And then come back up, bring your right hand to your left knee, left fingertips behind you. Inhale to lengthen, exhale to twist. And then bring your hands back out, flip your left palm, bring your arm up and over, roll the pinky side of your hand down. Come back up, left hand to the right knee, right hand behind you. Inhale to lengthen, exhale to twist. Looking out over the back shoulder. And then come back to center, hands behind us, feet flat on the mat. Move that always signals the end of class, knees side to side. And there we go, everyone. So thanks so much for tuning in. Oh, it was so nice to do our first